campus because we spend a lot of time here. Can I hear from the front table? Do you guys have an idea of it yet? Right now you're just thinking about what it would be. So, okay, you've got one spot. They're going to be office inside the wherever you think that there's a
I do not laugh at this. As long as it doesn't end.
I'm just trying to think about different areas of what I'm doing and ask for the
Who cares?
That's why I had to look on there to find the... Okay, guys, I'm only going to give you about 2 more minutes to write down your ideas. so pick somebody and go with it. I was telling the front table, you're not picking your best friend. You're just thinking about somebody who's maybe got a different experience of life than you do. I'm going to show you some slides. Of some examples of two-point perspective that's used maybe in a different way than you've seen. Okay, so this looks a little bit like one of the examples you guys saw on your worksheet, right? Did you guys draw a little city corner building? So that's one example. David, please. That's one example of how you can use two-point perspective to draw structures. And what are we seeing here?
Stranded group of buildings.
Okay, so you said they're stranded. That's interesting. They do look a little bit stranded. What could be done differently to make that look less isolated? Okay. Add buildings, more buildings on the other side, or make streets going off of it. Okay, those are both good ideas. Now this one is clearly a little bit more imaginary. What are we seeing here?
A whale in the sky, a producer, the aliens, a cowboy, and a shark.
All right. So what I'm showing you here is that as long as you've got the two-point perspective right, you can have a little bit of fun with it. Okay? And you can draw things like a shark or a tank and a cactus in your imaginary space that we're going to draw today. Now, what's this? Skate park. Okay, so you can draw a skate park in two-point perspective. And what's this? A railroad station. Okay. Now, this one doesn't look too isolated. What have they done here that makes it less isolated?
There's a playground.
There's a playground. That looks like fun. They've taken it right to the edge of the border, right? That railroad goes straight off the page. So you get the idea that it's not just an island stranded in space. Okay, now on this one, you can see right where those vanishing points are. Can somebody who's close up to the screen there go point to the vanishing points for me? Yep. Okay. Now, can you kind of trace and show me how the lines are going straight to that vanishing point? Pick any line and you'll see that it goes to that vanishing point. There you go. And in those windows and everything connects to the vanishing points, just like, and this is a lot like what you learned on the worksheet, right? Now, what about this one? The vanishing points on this one are not right on the page, easy for you to find. So, if we follow this, where do we think the vanishing points are? Can I get you to come show me where the vanishing points are? Well, come here. I'm going to have you slide those. Okay. So, the bottom vanishing point is going to be at the end of all of these lines, right? You can go look at these and see where they must be. They must be really far off of the edge of the table, right? Can you kind of spread up all of these and see? Do it on the other side and see how far, because I'm seeing the vanishing point might be like here. Maybe a little higher? Okay, what about the other side? Where would they be? Can you guys in the back see this? Okay, and what about this one? So where's the horizon line on this? The horizon line is actually like here, all the way up. So this is what kind of view is this? Okay, so sometimes you can draw the vanishing point far off from your picture plane, and that's what I had to do when I was drawing my Wall Street exec office, which I'm going to show you, because I couldn't get it to look realistic with the vanishing points on the page. If the vanishing points were on the page, it looked like that isolated island city. Now here's an example of how if you have things in a room that don't line up with the walls, you can make different vanishing points, and as long as they're on that horizon line, it'll still work. The two-point perspective can get a little complex, and I'm inviting you to do that with your work today. You've already drawn some examples of two-point perspective that are the way they are on a worksheet. This time I want you to get a little creative with it. Now here's another example of something drawn in two-point perspective, but it doesn't really look like a mathematical linear drawing. But in order to get this right, the artist had to think about two-point perspective. But those vanishing points are going to be really far off because it's not too sharp, right? Okay, here's another example of buildings in two-point perspective. And another. Now, there's taking it a little farther. And on that first one, you said you could make it less isolated by putting buildings off to the side. And here's an example of that. The streets run right off the edge of the picture plane, and the buildings are more to the side. And one way you can do that is by putting a bigger piece of blank paper or just scrap paper behind the paper you're actually working on, so you can draw your lines right off of it and still have it work. And here's an example of an interior space in two-point perspective. Now, we did interior spaces last week in one-point perspective, and you're welcome to do an interior space again in two-point, and this is how you do it. And we have a worksheet for that, too, if you try to do it and you run across any problems. Now, as you can see with the two-point perspective, things are coming out this way and out this way, which is the opposite of the last one that we tried to find the vanishing point. So you have to look at it and go, okay, these are coming this way, the vanishing point must be over here somewhere. And these are coming this way, the vanishing point must be over here somewhere. So that's how you would do an interior space with two-point perspective. You cross those vanishing points to get your wall. And then you can see everything in the space goes to those. This is a different vanishing point, but it's on the same horizon, right? So you can draw objects within your space with a different vanishing point as long as they're on the same horizon line. And here's a complex area. Now, do you think those people have a little bit different life from us? I see hay and crops, so maybe they're farmers. And there was one more that I didn't show you at the beginning. And here's the kitchen. Now, this one is a little bit unexpected, right? But you can see it's still going two-point perspective because you have lines coming this way to a vanishing point and then up this way to a vanishing point. So you can do all sorts of things with two-point perspective. Now that I've given you some more time, does everybody have some brainstorming down on what half of their paper?
Yeah.
Okay. On the other half of the paper, I want you to start thumbnailing out some ideas for what this space might look like. And I'll show you my process work if you want. I can pass them around. And you can see I've had to do a couple of different examples. Here was my side where I wrote some brainstorming and ideas about this office that I wanted to draw. And then I kept trying to get it right, and I couldn't quite get exactly what I wanted. So I just kept thumbnailing until I got something that I really liked. Now here I got something that I liked, but the perspective wasn't quite right. So I had to move my vanishing points a little farther off of the page. And here you can see my vanishing points went all the way to the corners of this piece of paper. So I had to crop it in and make my picture plane here. And I'm going to show you a way that you can do that when we get to our final pieces today. Is to take a piece of tape and put it behind your paper on your table, for example. I used this cardboard because I had it laying around and I didn't have a big enough table to use. You guys all have pretty big tables in front of you, and there's some empty spaces here if you need to move to get to a larger area. And you can put a piece of tape behind your piece and draw a horizon line that's bigger than your paper, so that you get vanishing points that are far away, and then things don't look so sharp and angled, right? So here's my idea of what a Wall Street executive's office might look like. I don't know if you ladies can see it back in the back. And everything's in two-point perspective. So I want you to take that other half of your paper and start thumbnailing out some ideas, and I'll walk around and help you out, okay?